Okay, now let's look at the actual Excel document. So it's best to open that up. I'm going to share my screen so you can see mine. Okay, you'll see on the bottom of the Excel document that there are different phases. We are in phase 1 right now. So be on that first tab. Let's look at the instructions. So for each exercise, you're going to perform 3 sets of 12 repetitions, aka 3 by 12. You're going to superset. So what that means is you're going to toggle back and forth between the exercises. For example, you'd perform 12 reps of exercise 1, and then you'd perform 12 reps of exercise 2, and so on. And you're going to select your own loads and record them in the appropriate boxes. And we're going to go over that in a second. When you're selecting loads, it's a big question of how much weight do you pick. I want you for phase 1 to pick a load that is moderately difficult. It's very subjective, but again, we are starting with higher volume and lower intensity. So it's not really designed to make you sore and sweaty. You're definitely not training to failure. So what that could feel like for you is after each set of 12 reps, it may feel like you can do 6 to 10 additional reps beyond that set of 12, right? So let's go through a sample day. Let's go week 1, alpha day. All right. So the first thing you're going to do is put in the date. And now we've got to pick our 2 exercises. You'll see that when you go to exercise 1, it's already telling you that you're going to do a squat and there's going to be a drop down. I have a list of exercises that you can pick from. So let's just say we're going to pick the back squat today. And then for a vertical push, we are going to do let's say a dumbbell shoulder press. All right. And you can expand these. It'll help you see a little bit better. All right. Okay. Now, let's say you go through these list of exercises and you're not sure what some of them are. If you look down on the bottom, there's phase 1 tab, phase 2, phase 3, and then you have exercise libraries. You have an exercise library for your alpha days and for your bravo days. So we're on alpha day right now, and let's toggle to that exercise library for alpha days. You'll see I have all the exercises listed with video links. So if we're on that squat day and we want to see what a back squat looks like, you can click on this YouTube link and it's going to take you to an instructional video that's going to help you out with that. So for every exercise that I recommend, there is a video associated with it if you need help. So let's go back to phase 1 tab. Now we're going to fill in our loads, and you can do this as you go. So it's basically just what you're lifting for your 3 sets of 12. I recommend recording it with just a comma. So let's say 45, 55, 65. And for dumbbells, you can choose how you want to record it. If you're using 2 dumbbells, you could add up the weight of those 2 dumbbells. So if you're using 2 10-pound dumbbells, you could say 20 pounds, or you could just say 10. It just depends on how you want to record it. So let's just say 10, 10, and 10. Now what we have in here, we have training notes. You don't have to fill this in. I think this is really handy because you're going to come back to these exercises at some point. And if you have notes on how they felt or how the training went, those can be really valuable. Now, at the end of every session, I'm going to want you to rate the session difficulty. Again, there's a drop down here with a bunch of selections. So 0 would be incredibly easy, as if you're resting, and 10 is the hardest. So it's a 0 to 10 scale. Again, this is subjective, but it's kind of letting you know how taxing the session was. So if you went too hard and at the end, maybe you're up in that 8, 9, 10 range, that might be challenging for a novice to recover from something that intense. So maybe the next time you're going to select loads a little bit lighter, or you're going to add in a little bit more rest time. For some of you, you may like training at a higher intensity. So, you may realize that the loads you selected were too light, and overall you didn't feel like you got enough out of the session. So in which case, the next time you go through, you can maybe adjust it and make it a little bit more challenging. So let's say for this one, we just said it's a 5, it's somewhat hard. I think for a novice, getting in that 5 anywhere from 4 to 7 range is probably going to be pretty beneficial for you. Now, let's just go to a sample Bravo day. So let's say that this is on the 21st. And let's pick some body weight exercises. So let's pick an air split squat and a TRX row. So again, if I don't know what these are, I'm going to go to that tab that says Exercise Library for Bravo Days, and it's going to give you all of that information. Now for loads, this is an air split squat. So an air squat would indicate that we're not using any external load. So it's just body weight. So what I can do is I can record 0, 0, and 0, right? Because I didn't lift any external weight. We're just not going to count the body weight. Or if you prefer not to write 0, you can write BW, body weight. That's however you want to record it. And the same thing with a ring row or a TRX row. It's going to be a body weight exercise. Now, let's say you're doing, let's change this exercise. Nah, we'll leave it the same. Let's just going to try and give you an example. Let's go down to week 2. I'll show you like a coronal plane. So let's just say it's a step up. We're doing a step up. Good. Okay. And for training notes, you might want to put the height of the box. So maybe it was a 12-inch box. So your notes don't just have to be subjective. You can put objective material in there. The only objective material that we're routinely recording are the loads. But again, that's a good spot in your training notes to add that in. And like I said, you're always going to put in that session difficulty at the end. The session difficulty is, I think it's really important. It's one of those things that you actually should start with that, thinking about how you want the session to end. So let's say you want to get in a really hard session and you're going to be disappointed if it's not hard. You know, you might want to make that decision before that you want that 8 or that 9 difficulty. But on the flip side, maybe you've got a long drive tomorrow and you want to get in a training session and you want it to be below a 5 hard. Well, you want to make that decision going into training because you can modify your loads based on how you want it to end. Now, let's look at the later phases. They're very similar. You're going to select everything in the same way. The main difference is that we've got to change the volume and the intensity. Because remember, we're starting with a relatively high volume, 3 sets of 12, at a relatively low intensity. So what we're going to do is the program stays the same, except instead of 3 sets of 12, we're going to go to 3 sets of 8. And again, you're going to superset, so you'll toggle back and forth. Now, you're going to select loads that are challenging. Remember, before they were moderately difficult. Now we're going up to challenging. We're still not training to failure. So I'll define challenging as maybe 4 to 6 additional reps. So that would mean you would finish a set of 8 and you would say to yourself, I could probably do 4 to 6 extra reps if I was to keep going. Then you know you're in the ballpark for something that's challenging, right? And then if we look at phase 3, we're going to reduce the volume even more. So we go from 3 sets of 8, we drop down to 3 sets of 5. Again, toggling back and forth, supersetting. Now you're going to select loads that are hard. Still not training to failure, but we're actually getting a lot closer to failure. So after you get done with a set of 5, this should feel like you could do 2 to 4 additional reps. So you're actually getting very close to a really heavy set of 5 for these exercises. Now, each of these phases, you can see I have 8 weeks built in. You can run each phase for about 4 to 8 weeks. It really just depends on how you want to do it. So this can actually be quite a long program for you, which really gives you a lot of time to adapt to the different exercises and adapt to strength training. So you get to spend a good amount of time in that linear progression working your way up to higher intensities.